All right, so welcome to the Daily Power Parsha. This is our daily opportunity to study and explore the Torah reading. I'm your host, Rabbi Ari, and you are exactly who you are meant to be and where you are meant to be. And that statement that I'm sharing with you right now is actually connected with one of the themes that we are going to explore in our Torah reading as I'm pulling up to share the screen right now. But first, let's talk about the laws of workers, the laws of a day laborer. So today's Torah reading, the fifth portion of Teitzei, opens up with a discussion about the laws of a day laborer working in someone else's field. So imagine, let me stop sharing for a second. Imagine you're working in someone else's vineyard and you're harvesting grapes, and the grapes look so good. They look amazing. And you're harvesting the grapes, and all you want to do is try a few grapes. What do you do? What do you think you can do? You're allowed to take grapes or you can't take grapes? Remember, it's not your field. You're working for the owner. Your job is to harvest the grapes, but they're right there. Can you take or not take? What do you think? Yay or nay? Is it kosher or stealing?
You can ask.
Of course you can ask. But who knows where the guy is? He's not around, or she, whatever. The owners are not around. You're around, right? Let's say, you're right, you should ask. You could ask. Let's say you didn't ask. What do you do? What do you do? It's a good question. I don't think it has a clear-cut answer. Otherwise, I mean, the Torah has a clear answer. But I think morally, ethically, we could go both ways. You know, on the one hand, you're working, you're in the field, whatever, the food is there, etc. On the other hand, you know, it's not yours, so maybe it's stealing. Right? Where do we go? Imagine you work in the assembly line in China, in what's that place called where they make the iPhones? There's like a name for that place. What is it?
Foxconn.
Foxconn, yeah, Foxconn, right. Imagine you're working in Foxconn and you're like, look, grapes, apples, whatever. What's the difference? Apple, right? iPhone. I'm going to take one. I'm just going to pocket one on the line. Just one a day. Just one a day. We'll just quickly pocket one and that's it. Maybe we would have a different response to that. But what's the deal with the food? Let's take a look at Torah's wisdom. Here we go. Check this out. When you enter your neighbor's vineyard, the Torah says, you may eat as many grapes as you desire. By the way, when you enter your neighbor's vineyard, doesn't mean you can break and enter in and just go to town. That's not what it means. It means when you enter legally your neighbor's vineyard, because you were hired to work there, then the Torah green lights. Yes, you are allowed to eat as many grapes as you desire until you are sated. But here's the caveat: you shall not put any into your vessel. No take-home bags. No to-go, little doggy bag. It's not kosher. So you can eat while you're working, but you can't take it with you. Okay. The same thing is true with verse 26. When you enter your neighbor's standing grain, you may pick the ears with your hand, the ears of grain, but you shall not lift a sickle upon your neighbor's standing grain. Again, if it's available and you're do you eat the grain straight off the stalk? There's too much about farming that I don't know to be able to tell you exactly what you're doing with this. And if it's a to-go also with this one or not a to-go, I don't know. All I know is that it says you can pick it with your hands, but you can't formally use a sickle and start cutting down and start taking. That's already going above and beyond what we allow the worker to do. So we have two laws regarding workers in a field, the vineyard and the field, and the bottom line is while you're working, you're allowed to enjoy the produce. This becomes, okay, so that's the law, the basic law. Now let's explore this on a spiritual level, because every law, every detail of Torah also has a much higher spiritual teaching, moral lesson for us as well. What's that higher teaching? So all of us are working in God's field, right? All of us are working. This is God's earth, and God put us here. We're the day laborers. We work. And God says, as long as you're working my field, as long as you're tending my garden, as long as you're, being productive in my world, enjoy. Enjoy. Pick up the grapes and enjoy the ears of grain. Go for it. Enjoy. B'te'avon. enjoy. However, the Torah says, with regards to the grapes, you shall not put any into your vessel. And like I mentioned before, what's the meaning of that? You can't take it with you. And that becomes the spiritual teaching, the moral teaching, the timeless teaching of the Torah for all of us. And that is, God says, if you're doing the good work, enjoy. Enjoy the fruits of your labor. Enjoy the world and its amenities. But know this, the work is valuable in and of itself. You can't take the grapes with you. It doesn't transfer over to the other side after 120 years. You can't take the money, you can't take the cars, you can't take the houses, you can't take the possessions, you can't take the clothing, you can't take it with you, you can't even take the grapes. Okay, that's one message. Second message is regarding the two examples that Torah gives is the vineyard and the grain. So vines or grapes and grain. What's the difference? So grain is a staple, right? Grain, if it's wheat, it produces bread, which is a staple of life. By the way, bread was always a staple of life. Bread, right? Like the basics, bread and water, basics. Today, we're very fancy, so we can afford to be carb-free. Like we can go without carbs because we have so much other stuff that we figured out how to eat and how to produce in a way that's, But back in the day, you ate what you ate, and bread was a staple. So the second verse of these two, verse 26, is talking about something that is the staple, the grain. Verse 25 is the grape. Now the grape is more exotic, right? Grapes and wine, already that's more sophisticated. That's not a need. Well, hopefully it's not a need. It's rather a luxury. So the Torah gives two examples. One of basic necessity and one of luxury. What's the message? The message is, as long as we're doing the work, as long as we're working God's field, as long as we're doing the spiritual work that God put us here to do, then God says, I'll give you the basics, and I'll even give you the luxuries. Enjoy. Enjoy the basics, the grain, even the grapes and the wine. I'll give you the luxury also. So we should know that as long as we're committed to doing what we need to be doing, God green lights us to enjoy life. Again, the kosher, permissible pleasures of life, right? No nefarious. It's not green lighting all activity that might be enjoyable, but kosher activities, activities that are morally and ethically sound. But even the luxuries are okay. Sometimes we think that to live a spiritual life, you have to live like very, hunched over and very poor and very this. The answer is no. The Torah points out here, not necessarily. As long as we're working in God's field, even the vineyard is available. Okay, so that's some deeper insights and some basic ideas regarding the law of the day labor. Okay, and then it's kind of a short reading here. The rest of the reading talks about the laws of divorce. Let's read it inside. It's not. This is just one scenario. When a man takes a wife and is intimate with her, and it happens that she does not find favor in his eyes because he discovers in her an unseemly moral matter, and he writes for her a bill of divorce and places it into her hand and sends her away from his house, and she leaves his house. It's all a scenario. So let's say somebody divorces his wife, and then she leaves his house and goes and marries another man. If the latter husband, it's a strong word, dislikes her, and writes her a bill of divorce and places it into her hand and sends her away from his house, or if the latter husband who took her as a wife dies, take a look at the plot twist, her first husband who had sent her away may not take her again to be his wife, since she was, quote, defiled to him, for that is an abomination before the Lord, and you shall not bring sin to the land the Lord your God gives you for an inheritance. So here the Torah, this is not a typical scenario, just a basic scenario of divorce. This is a little bit more of an elaborate conversation. So two people are married, and they get divorced, and then the wife remarries somebody else, or marries somebody else. The Torah says she cannot, if that doesn't work out, or if the second husband dies, she cannot go back to husband number one. And the Torah calls this an abomination, or something that is basically not nice or immoral. The question is why? Like, and you should know the reason why this is a question is because in Jewish law, in Torah law, if a couple gets divorced, there's no prohibition against that couple remarrying. There can be a divorce and a remarry. But if she remarried in the interim, someone else, if she married somebody else in the interim, then you can't do the remarrying. You understand? You see the difference between the two? So a couple that is married, divorced, they can get remarried. But a couple that's married, divorces, she remarries, then at that point, too late to get remarried. Why? What's the rationale? I don't know that there's an ironclad rationale for it, but I've seen something interesting. I've seen something to the effect that, Torah prohibits a relationship outside of the marriage. So if I will just speak in dignified terms here, but the Torah basically prohibits any activity outside of the marriage. Adultery is prohibited. Had this law not been on the books, this would have greenlighted a scenario where a couple could say, "Oh, no problem. Let me quickly write up a writ of divorce. Then you be with another guy, and then don't worry, you'll come back." Right? You understand what I'm saying? In other words, it's not adultery anymore. There was a divorce and a remarrying. So the Torah says, no. If that's your plan, that's not going to work. Right? Yes, Donna, go ahead.
Can that woman marry a third man
Yes.
if she gets a divorce?
Yes. So a couple marries, they get divorced, she remarries, then another divorce, or the husband passed away. Absolutely, she can marry someone else and someone. I mean, there's no problem, and there's no limit. The problem is if the original or one of the prior spouses wants to remarry her after she's already been divorced and had married somebody else. And again, I'm not saying this is the rationale, but I've always thought that this seems to be an interesting take on it. I don't remember which commentary says this, but it's in one of the commentaries, or maybe a few of the commentaries, this idea that this is basically the Torah's way of precluding a loophole when it comes to extramarital activity. Saying that, so we can't have activity outside the marriage, so let's divorce, you'll marry the other guy, and then we're just gonna, pick up where that left off. And the Torah says, no. Can't do that. You have to. So, is that the reason? Is that the only reason for this law? Of course not. Is that something that I've seen? I'm giving you a very specific, yes or no choice here. But is it something that I've seen that's resonated with me? Yes. So anyway, not resonated, but it's an interesting. I think it's a clever way of understanding this law, and to me it makes sense. Anyway, that's a little bit about this short reading. Let me give you a bit of a deeper take on the notion of divorce in general. So in Jewish law, divorce, or in Judaism, divorce is an absolute option. It's not like other religions that don't allow divorces, right? I mean, I think Catholicism maybe doesn't allow for divorce, annulments, which I don't really know the difference between that. If you're whatever, it's not about other religions right now. But the point is that Torah allows for divorce. And our sages say it's actually the greatest thing, the greatest blessing that could be in a relationship is to know that there's a way out. Because if you don't know that there's a way out, even in a good relationship, it could get suffocating, claustrophobic. So in general, this idea that divorce is when I say a mitzvah, it's not like, one is supposed to, but it's a mitzvah. It's one of the 613 is divorce. When it arises, that is an option, that is, there. It's in the laws of Torah. Knowing that can help a relationship, withstand. Because, okay, so we know that it's an option. So now we can work through it and we know it's an option. In general, we always try to make sure that divorce is the last option and we work through things. The Rebbe spoke about this law in the context of our own individual shlichut. Shlichut means like our mission in life. Every one of us is married to a mission in life. And what does that mean? We're married to a mission in life? Based on, who we are, personality, based on our upbringing, based on our current surroundings, where we are, what we're doing. That kind of constitutes our mission. A person might wake up one day and say, I don't like what I'm doing. I don't like my mission. Right? I don't feel like this is for me. So Judaism would always encourage someone who's struggling with their mission in life, and this is, referring to something maybe a little bit more spiritual, a spiritual mission, what their calling is in life, to always take a second look and ask the question, do I not like it, because it's uncomfortable or difficult or whatever, or is it really, really, really not for me? Because if it's uncomfortable or difficult, maybe that just means we need to dig deeper and try to push hard to do what we need to do. I'll tell you, with regards to this topic in general, I once saw a letter where somebody had written to the Lubavitcher Rabbi. I don't know the letter that was written in, but I saw the letter that was written back. Of course, the personal information was redacted, but the point comes through. Basically, this person wrote a letter. You can kind of infer it from the Rebbe's answer, struggling with some challenges in their life and some of the relationships that they had. And the Rebbe basically said that that this person's mission, the reason why their soul was reincarnated, why their soul was sent down to earth, was specifically to fix up this relationship, or to work hard at this relationship. And so I think that in general, when we have that perspective, that, okay, it's difficult, I'm not only talking about marriage, I'm talking in general, like life mission. When something gets difficult, there's two approaches, right? You can hold him or you could fold him, right? Who sang that song? Kenny Rogers or something? Know when to hold him, know when to fold him, know when to walk away, know when to run. You gotta know when to fold him. Something like that. Bam, bam, ba-dam, bam. I may be singing off key and getting the words wrong, but you'll forgive me. The point is, before we call it quits, whether it's a relationship with another person or whether it's a relationship with a mission in life that we're currently involved in, before we call it quits, Judaism always encourages us to give it another shot and try hard to see if maybe just maybe this is meant to be an obstacle that we're meant to push through, as opposed to an obstacle that we're meant to, divert to another direction. It's hard to know. It's hard to know when we encounter a block in life. Okay, what's my calling? To blast through it, or to say, I'm going the other way? It's hard to know. And I don't think there's a hard and fast rule. I think it requires a lot of thought, a lot of inner work, a lot of prayer, and maybe consulting, some third parties, some objective friends. It's always good to have friends in general, but it's good to have friends that we can consult with. It says in Pirkei Avot, I think I'll end with this idea. It says in Ethics of Our Fathers, Aseh lecha rav, make sure that you have a mentor, ukenei lecha chauffeur, and acquire a friend. And both are needed. We need mentors, but we also need good friends. And really, what's common to both of them is that these are people that are not us, and therefore bring some measure of objectivity to a conversation. So sometimes it's hard for us to know because we're so enmeshed in the question. We don't have that perspective. We don't have kind of that broader view. We don't have that, the bigger picture, because we're stuck in it. We're too subjective. So that's why we ask, that's why we consult, that's why we have friends and we have mentors, or we're supposed to have friends and mentors, according to Pirkei Avot, and that can help. So, may all of our relationships be smooth. May our life mission be, we should be rocking and rolling with our life's mission. If we encounter a challenge, let's push hard, and let's have people that we can turn to for help and advice and guidance. And may all of it be in a successful way, in a healthy way, and in a way that brings ourselves joy, brings the other joy, brings God joy. And while we're doing it, let's enjoy the grapes and some grain as well, because why not? While we're at it, let's make it happen. All right, that's it for today for Daily Power Parsha. We had a short reading, but I think it packs quite the interesting punch. Any questions, comments? Yes, Donna.
Can you elaborate on the divorce mitzvah, what it actually says?
Yeah. Oh, it says it over here. Basically, the mitzvah.
That's the one you were referring to?
Yeah, writes a bill of divorce. That's it. In other words, yeah, it's not a mitzvah to divorce, but it's if a couple.
It's better to divorce than to continue in a not good situation.
Well, no, it doesn't necessarily say that, but it says that if it gets to the point where it's impossible, then there's the option for divorce. And when I say option, it then is I think, so part of it is, mitzvah could be a good deed, mitzvah could be an obligation, mitzvah is a commandment. The way I'm using the word mitzvah in this context is a protocol. So the Torah says there's a protocol. If a couple wishes to divorce, there's a protocol. It's called a get. It's a writ of divorce. It's a Jewish legal document, and it's a bit of a process, and that's the protocol. Now, is it something we seek? Is it something is it a first option? No, it's something that's left for if it's impossible otherwise, then there's an option. But I said before, like philosophically, and this is not my own analysis. This is brought down in ancient Jewish teachings, that the very fact that the Torah allows for divorce, that itself could help a couple navigate some difficult situations, knowing that at any point in time there's a process to end it, so to speak, or to uncouple, and for each to move on their own way to a certain respect. So knowing that can kind of take the pressure and intensity out, and maybe allow us to think with a little bit of a clearer mind. Like, look, let's give it a shot. If not, at least we have this option. But it doesn't create that impossibility. It's kind of like, give an example. This is the example that's actually given in, I think, the Talmud or the Midrash. So this is going back like a few thousand years. The example that's given is a person could stay in their house for a few days. Let's say they didn't have anything to go out for and they stayed at home and they're very happy, relaxing at home. But you tell a person you have to stay in your house for a few days. Now they're climbing the walls. Now they're getting very they're getting worked up, intellectually,
Prisoner.
Yeah, exactly, right. So you tell someone, you don't tell somebody anything. They choose to stay at home, or what? Because they know at any time they can go out. So therefore, being at home is not a thing. But suddenly tell a person that you can't leave, and suddenly, a second later, you're going to be like panicking. It's the way it is. On a fast day, right? Many people have this experience on a fast day. They wake up in the morning and like, oh my gosh, I got to eat. I got to drink something. It's like, what happened last Tuesday? Come on, last Tuesday, you went for a few hours, you weren't even thinking about it. Why? Because at any time you could have taken eaten something or drinking something. So therefore it's not in your brain. It's not, and you don't have that pressure. But suddenly when you can't, pressure. So God never wanted to have a relationship with that type of pressure, because that would be unsustainable. That would create, relationships are complicated now. Imagine if, according to Torah, like they could never be dissolved. Oh my God, that would be very, very, very tense. The moment you say you can't, it's like, all right, I gotta get out. So the Torah says, no problem. If you want to dissolve the marriage, It's fine. I'm gonna say fine, but it's halachically, it's doable. There's a way to do it. But at the same time, try to make it work. Let that be the last option. And the same thing is true with our own spiritual mission. At any point in time, we can let it go and move on and try something else, spiritually. But that's the last resort. Let's try to make it work before we hang up the towel. Anyway, that's a little bit about that, about divorce and the spiritual meaning. And again, as long as we're doing God's work, God says enjoy the basics, enjoy the luxuries. So let's lux it up. Lux? Is that the word? People call luxury? Lux? Yeah. Lux. Enjoy life. It's good. Lux. All right. That also works.
French, like in French.
Oh, French. Yeah. It sounds French. Lux. All right. Good. Great to see everybody. If you haven't yet signed up for our dinner, if you haven't yet signed up for Gemstones and Kabbalah, no, Monday night. We have only, I think, 2 or 3 kits left. We're like right at the end, but these kits are gorgeous, really beautiful jewelry. I mean, fantastic, so fancy schmancy. So that's that. And then our dinner's coming up in a few weeks on a Thursday night, September 10th. 2 weeks from tonight. Dinner at home, delivered, catered dinner, gourmet, plus an all-star program supporting Intown Jewish Academy. That's a trifecta right there. That's a win-win-win. With swag. IJA swag. If you like the cup, if you like the coffee mug, just wait till you get this swag as part of the package. All right, join us then. Spread the word to your friends, and let's keep the good health rolling. Everyone stay well and healthy, and I look forward to... Oh, Chauffeur. Thank you. I always forget. Thank you for keeping me honest here. Give me a second. I don't have my assistant, so I think I'm just going to do it whilst in the seated position. God will forgive me. Okay, here we go. Remember, the purpose of this is to inspire us, to get us ready for the holidays, and to inspire us to change whatever we need to change. Let me just show you some quick symbolism with the shape of the shofar. So the shofar, most standard shofars look kind of like this. So they have a straight, kind of like a straight edge, and then it twists. And the message is, in life sometimes, things get a little bit complicated. But whichever way life goes, we give it all in our relationship with God and trying to seek our purpose. So with all of our complications and all of our, we show up and we do the best we can. All right, here we go. Chauffeur. Let me try that again. That's it. All right.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
If
Thanks
anyone wants to learn Chabad.org, send today an email. There's a free workshop or something.
Yes. And breaking news. We're about to announce it. Chabad in Town and Intown Jewish Academy, we are putting together a kit, a DIY Rosh Hashanah kit that will have your own chauffeur, honey cake, and it will also come with access to a class on the mechanics of blowing the shofar as well as the Kabbalah of shofar. So that way, if somebody is not able to make it to synagogue, you can learn how to blow the shofar yourself, and you can have the DIY experience. Anyway, stay tuned for more excitement. Oh, wow, that's a nice shofar. Oh, wow. Hello, that's fantastic. Oh, you can't. Wait. Let me see the end. Let me see the end of it. Let me see the end. Is it open? Does it have an opening? It has a mouthpiece, right?
It's just. Where's the?
No, the mouthpiece is the narrow part. Does it have the mouthpiece?
Just mouthpiece. That's narrow.
So then all you have to do is you have to blow it like a trumpet. Basically, you have to create a vibration.
Okay.
Yeah.
I played the trumpet in high school.
See?
Okay, you can try it.
Try it, Max. Don't worry, we're not watching. See?
It's hard.
It's not easy, but if you practice it, practice makes perfect. What, you think I just picked this up yesterday? Come on. My grandfather, may he be well, and for many, many, many long years, it was the shofar blower in the synagogue in Pittsburgh, in the Chabad synagogue in Pittsburgh, for decades, probably 60 years. I think recently he hung up his horn, but it's been, which is not an expression that anyone has ever said. But anyway, what is that? But he, but yeah. So I learned from the best. Anyway.
Okay, we'll practice.
Yes, practice. I want to see you on tomorrow. I want to hear that. Okay, or next week also. But
I can't do anything. I might as well.
Right? Yeah, but hold it with your other shoulder. Right? Hold it with your right arm. All right. Great to see everyone. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy your chauffeurs. All right. Take care, all.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Pleasure.